This is a very special Cameroon Journal editorial titled, "The Truth is that we still don't have a united front." Again, the subject is, "We still don't have a united front." A little over a week ago, convening in Nigeria, a number of southern Cameroon's nationalist groups under the canopy of SCACUF issued a statement to the effect that they have formed a united front for the southern Cameroon struggle. Henceforth, the statement suggested all the groups are poised to working together. While from the surface the statement sounds like we finally got the unity we have been yearning for, there really isn't anything that practically binds the groups together. The whole arrangement still leaves much to be desired. It has no characteristics features of a union, such as working articles that spell out the role each group should be playing or should play. All we see is a secretariat and some names that should be running it. To call what came out of Nigeria as a united front that the southern Cameroonians have been yearning for is sarcasm at its best. We are not being unnecessarily pessimistic and critical here. First, there are basically only two groups in this struggle: those that want to achieve independence through the diplomatic route, and those who think that armed struggle is the way to go. Now, let's consider what in the mind of most people is the kind of united front they want. A united front in the mind of most southern Cameroonians should mean each group acknowledging and embracing the agenda or mission of the other groups and seeing themselves as complementing, not opponents, as it is turning out to be. That should have been the starting point in the Nigerian meeting. In other words, we are saying that a united front would have been attained only when the groups acknowledge the strengths and vision of each other and agree not necessarily to compromise, but to work in collaboration with each other despite the differences in direction. There is a popular adage that says, "Many roads lead to Rome," and that applies to this struggle. No one group can boast that its way is the only way that can take us to Boya. Coming out of Nigeria, we still have the situation where some of the groups do not believe that diplomacy will take us anywhere, while others continue to preach the doctrine that self-defense, call it armed struggle, has no place in their agenda. And that is the mess we are still in right now. Take, for instance, the SCNC, the consortium, and Maurice. They continue to preach nonviolence. They are trying to convince the people that lobbying and diplomacy is the best strategy that should get us to the Prime Minister Lodge in Boya. They certainly are not in support of the groups advocating for alternatives such as self-defense or armed struggle. With this line of division still drawn, putting a wedge between the consortium, SCNC and Maurice on the one hand, and the AG and the SCYL on the other. With all this, how can we say, with our heads lifted up, that we've found a united front? Cho Ayaba, Ebenezer Akwanga of the AG and SCYL respectively, should be laughing at the proponents of lobby and diplomacy to scorn, wondering where in Africa diplomacy has brought independence or statehood to any nation. It is the same picture happening on the other side, where people like Bo Herbert, who are hanging on the diplomatic strings, are laughing at the self-defense group, wondering where they did get the money to finance their mission. This is the elephant on the table that SCACUF in its unity strive failed to address. You don't talk of unity when each faction is still very much focused on independently pursuing its goals. If a meeting of all the groups is not reconvened, SCACUF will die, or maybe just come across as a press release issuing authority. For there to be a genuine united front, SCACUF should amalgamate, not just names of groups, but more importantly, acknowledge and synergize what each group brings to the table in sought ways for all to function under the umbrella in diversity. Right now, that is yet to be seen. The second point, self-evident enough, that there was no united front coming out of the SCACUF meeting in Nigeria, is the fact that nothing was mentioned about how each of the groups contributes financially to the secretariat they created. All these groups are out there raising money. Some are raising more than others. If they have actually bought into the idea of a united front, doesn't common sense suggest that they put the money or some percentage of it in the coffers of the secretariat or SCACUF? A united front should entail that all the groups direct all or some of their funds to the center secretariat, and the secretariat, in collaboration with the advisory council, resolve on how to deploy the funds. Right now, we still have a situation where Maurice has to keep all the funds they raise. The same can be said of the SCYL, the SCNC, the AG, and Bazonia, amongst others. At the Cameroon Journal, it is our opinion that you do not talk about unity, not until all the parties are willing to relinquish dominion over their finances, or at least part of it, to the secretariat. If this is not done, you can bet that the secretariat will be powerless and left with no funds to execute the mission for which it was created. If SCACUF wants to be true to itself, it should be calling for another meeting in which issues like these are put on table. All the groups should come together again, and barriers such as the inability and intransigence of each group to recognize the role and mission and strength of others resolve first. This is very important because if proponents of self-defense know that if they surrender their finances and are not supported when time comes for them to pursue their mission, there is nothing that is going to motivate them to put their finances on table. And this argument can be made for every other group. SCACUF was a good idea, but for it to work the way it was envisioned, there is need for another forum involving all the groups for issues raised here to be discussed. And we should point out some reoccurring contradiction here. Maurice continues to insist that it was formed as an umbrella facilitating organization. If they continue to claim that role, then what is the difference between SCACUF and Maurice? This issue has to be resolved. Maurice cannot be fronting itself as an umbrella group and SCACUF claiming the same rule. Maurice can transform itself into an independent group like the AGC, the SCYL, or the SCNC to solve this problem. SCACUF and Maurice both cannot claim to be umbrella groups, while Maurice claims it's coming under SCACUF at the same time. This is very important because at the weekend in Atlanta, Bo Herbert stated that SCACUF endorsed their plan of action at a Nigeria meeting. It left many people confused. What is Maurice? An umbrella organization or just another group? Why should they be having a plan of action that is not endorsed by others? If SCACUF is the umbrella group, why not have it be the one to draw the plan of action? And this brings us to this idea of an interim government. For SCACUF to have endorsed the idea of electing some interim government in May was very premature. There is just no rationale behind forming some government now. Maurice has advanced the idea that such an interim government will facilitate the endorsement of the struggle by some foreign governments. Assuming that is true, so what will happen after the struggle is endorsed by these foreign governments? As far as we know, the Palestinians have been endorsed by almost every nation member of the United Nations. But has that given the Palestinians their statehood? Not that we know. This struggle is still at the kindergarten level, characterized by ghost towns, protest marches, and civil disobedience. You do not form an interim government thinking that the world will listen to you when all they see are ghost town, protest marches, and civil disobedience. Strikes, street protests, and civil disobedience are not sine qua non to the southern Cameroons. In the contrary, if SCACUF had a united front where those for self-defense were encouraged to launch ahead and strike La République du Cameroon, at that point, an interim government becomes very necessary because it can go before foreign governments to broker deals based on the action on the ground and contingent on the victory of the efforts of self-defense. This interim government thing will only enforce the idea that some people are so thirsty for power and position in a struggle whose end remains so uncertain. And by the way, didn't we have an interim government before that was headed by Professor Carson Anyangwe? What did that arrangement add or bring to the struggle? It brought nothing. This is time for action, not time for an interim government. Let's set up a TV station that keeps our people informed and educated as per the direction of the struggle. Let's give them alternative internet. Let's support those in prisons. Above all, let's activate self-defense. At the Cameroon Journal, we believe that this is what will rekindle zeal and hope for this revolution. Again, you heard this from the Cameroon Journal, and you can reread it at thecameroonjournal.com. Thanks for listening.